What if 70 breathe every second, yet your body can't use directly? Without nitrogen, there would be no crops as we know it. Here's why.
So I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
You stretch, you walk over to the window,
Right.
and you take this big, deep breath. But instantly, something feels, well, profoundly wrong.
Right, because your ears pop painfully.
Exactly. The air pressure in your bedroom has just completely plummeted. And the sky outside, it looks different.
And I mean, that physical discomfort is really just the warning bell. Within hours, crops out in the field start wilting.
Right.
Within days, complex ecosystems start collapsing. Give it, maybe a few weeks, and humanity is looking at an extinction-level disaster.
But here's the really crazy twist to all this. Oxygen didn't disappear.
No, the oxygen is still there exactly as it always was.
Right. What vanished was the gas that makes up roughly 78% of Earth's atmosphere. Nitrogen. I mean, it is invisible, it's odorless, and we completely ignore it in our daily lives.
We really do.
But today, we're doing a deep dive into this incredible stack of sources we've got. From biogeochemistry papers to agricultural history and astrobiology journals, we're exploring element 7. Because our mission today is to understand how this seemingly boring, lifeless gas is actually the secret engine running humanity and all life on Earth.
It really is the silent scaffolding of modern civilization. And when you look at the atmospheric data in these papers, the disproportion is just staggering.
Oh, totally.
We always talk about Earth as this, oxygen-rich planet, but oxygen is only about 21% of the air. You have less than 1% left over for argon, carbon dioxide, and trace gases. So nearly 4 out of every 5 molecules bouncing off your skin right this second are nitrogen.
Which brings me to the ultimate irony of our biology.
Yeah.
Every single breath you take, every breath all of us take is mostly nitrogen.
Yeah.
We are constantly inhaling it, but we exhale it entirely unused. It just goes into our lungs and comes right back out.
Just passing through.
Right. So if our bodies absolutely depend on this stuff to survive, and we are literally swimming in a sea of it, why can't we just absorb it directly from the air?
Well, to answer that, we have to look at the atomic level, but also historically at how nitrogen was first identified. Because its defining characteristic, the thing that makes it so frustratingly hard for us to use, is exactly what confused early scientists.
Right back in the 1700s.
Exactly. In 1772, a Scottish physician named Daniel Rutherford was isolating gases. He systematically removed oxygen and carbon dioxide from the air in an enclosed space, basically trying to see what was left over.
Leaving only the mystery gas.
Right. But when he tested it, the gas appeared to be completely inert. I mean, a candle placed in it would instantly snuff out because it wouldn't support combustion.
Yeah.
And a mouse placed in it wouldn't survive because it wouldn't support respiration. So for a long time, it was considered a lifeless or noxious air. It just sat there, refusing to react with anything.
Okay, let's unpack that reluctance to react. Because the sources get deep into the anatomy of element 7. It's not actually lifeless, is it? It's just heavily guarded.
Heavily guarded is a great way to put it, yeah. A nitrogen atom has 7 protons, 7 neutrons, and 7 electrons. And the real key is in the outer shell of those electrons.
With valence electrons, right?
Yes, it has 5 valence electrons, but to be stable, it really wants 8. So atmospheric nitrogen atoms don't just float around alone, they pair up into N2.
And the way they pair up is basically the crux of the entire nitrogen paradox, isn't it?
It really is, because they each need 3 electrons to complete their outer shell. They share 3 pairs of electrons with each other. They form what's called a triple covalent bond.
A triple bond.
Yeah, and in the realm of chemistry, this is one of the absolute strongest bonds in all of nature. The 2 nitrogen atoms are locked together so tightly that the resulting N2 gas is incredibly stable. I mean, it takes a massive amount of energy to break them apart.
So to use an analogy, atmospheric nitrogen is essentially a heavily armored safe.
Oh, I like that.
And that safe is completely filled with cash, just floating right in front of a starving person. The nutrients, the biological cash, are right there.
Right there for the taking.
But that triple bond is a master lock, and our lungs simply do not possess the combination. We breathe the locked safes in, and we breathe the locked safes right back out.
That analogy perfectly captures the frustration of the nitrogen cycle. We are basically starving in a sea of abundance, and we truly are starving without it because the cash inside that safe isn't just a nice to have, it's a fundamental biological necessity.
Yeah, I was struck by just how deep that necessity goes in the biological research. We think of oxygen for breathing and calcium for bones, but nitrogen is the core of our actual programming.
It is the literal foundation. Nitrogen is a required building block for the nitrogenous bases of your DNA and RNA.
The letters of the genetic code, right?
Exactly. The adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. You can't make them without nitrogen. It's the central component of amino acids, which means you cannot build a single protein without it. It forms enzymes. It's in chlorophyll for plants. It's a key structural part of ATP, which is the molecule your cells use to store and transfer energy.
So it's everything.
Pretty much. If you cannot open that atmospheric safe, your cells can't divide, your muscles can't grow, and your brain simply cannot function.
Okay, so we have this unbreakable ironclad bond in the sky and life on the ground that will just wither and die without it. If human lungs can't pick the lock, how does nature get the safe open?
Nature employs two main methods to break that triple bond. One is biological and one is physical. The biological route is arguably the most important, but it's completely invisible to us.
Because it happens deep underground, right?
Right, it's driven by these specialized microscopic bacteria.
These little underground lockpicks.
Precisely. These bacteria, they often live in symbiotic relationships on the roots of legumes.
Like peas and beans and clover.
Yeah, exactly. And they possess this very rare, complex enzyme called nitrogenase. This enzyme is essentially the biological combination to the safe. It binds to the N2 gas from air pockets in the soil, and using energy, painstakingly forces those three chemical bonds apart.
Just prying them open.
Yeah, and then it adds hydrogen to create ammonia.
And from there, it's basically a biological assembly line.
Looking at the nitrogen cycle, once the first bacteria create ammonia, a different set of soil bacteria oxidizes that into nitrites.
Right.
And then yet another set converts those into nitrates. And those nitrates are the actual form that plants can easily drink up through their root systems.
You've got it. The plants absorb the nitrates to build their leaves, stems, and seeds. Then animals come along and eat the plants, incorporating that nitrogen into their own muscle and tissue. Predators eat those animals.
The circle of life. Exactly. And the cycle closes when those organisms die or produce waste. A specialized cleanup crew of decomposer bacteria breaks down the organic matter, eventually releasing the nitrogen back into the atmosphere as N2 gas. It's this elegant, closed-loop recycling system.
It is elegant, but the biology takes time. Which brings me to the second way nature cracks the sage, the physical route. And this absolutely blew my mind when I read it in the source notes.
Ah, the lightning.
Yes, because if the bacteria are the lockpicks, nature's backup plan is to just blow the safe up with dynamite by using lightning.
It's one of the most violent chemical reactions on the planet.
I mean, a lightning bolt is a channel of plasma that can be hotter than the surface of the sun.
Yeah.
That raw, concentrated, explosive heat provides the massive activation energy required to literally shatter the ironclad triple bonds of nitrogen right there in the sky.
Gas rips them apart.
It rips the N2 atoms apart, forces them to bond with oxygen, and then it literally rains down as natural water-soluble nitrates. So before human agriculture even existed, every violent thunderstorm was secretly a giant planetary fertilization event.
It really changes how you look at a rainstorm, doesn't it? Every lightning strike is quietly feeding the forests. But here is the critical limitation of nature's methods. Whether it's precision bacterial enzymes or raw bolts of plasma, they have a strict speed limit.
Right.
They can only fix or unlock so much nitrogen at a time.
And for thousands of years, that natural speed limit essentially capped the human population.
Yeah.
I mean, we could only grow as much food as the naturally occurring soil nitrogen allowed.
Exactly.
If you wanted to boost your crop yield, you had to manually move nitrogen around. You were hauling manure, planting clover, or mining bird guano from remote islands. We were entirely dependent on nature's pace.
Until the early 20th century, when humanity decided to build its own safe-cracking factories, this is where the Haber-Bosch process enters the picture and just completely alters the trajectory of our species.
Right, Fritz Haber and Carl Bosch. The historical documents on these two are fascinating because the world was facing a massive crisis around 1900. Experts were predicting global famine because we were running out of naturally fixed nitrogen for agriculture.
Yeah, the population was growing too fast.
And Haber and Bosch figured out how to bypass the bacteria entirely.
They replicated the extreme conditions needed to break the triple bond, but on an industrial scale. The Haber-Bosch process works by taking atmospheric nitrogen and hydrogen gas, putting them inside massive steel reactors, and subjecting them to immense heat.
We're talking about 500 degrees Celsius. Yes.
And crushing pressures of 200 atmospheres, all while passing the gases over an iron catalyst.
They literally brute forced the lock. They squeezed and cooked the air until the nitrogen surrendered and turned into synthetic ammonia.
And that synthetic ammonia became the foundation for modern artificial fertilizers. It was hailed as, pulling bread out of thin air. Today, this industrial process sustains the massive global production of corn, wheat, rice, and soybeans. Estimates actually suggest that roughly half of the nitrogen atoms currently inside your body, the atoms building your muscles and your DNA, originally passed through a Haber-Bosch factory.
Half of my body. That is insane.
Yeah. Without it, the Earth simply could not sustain 8 billion people.
But this introduces the dark duality of element 7. And the historical context of Fritz Haber really embodies this, because the exact same chemical mechanics that feed billions of people also power absolute devastation.
It's a very dark chapter, yeah.
Haber won the Nobel Prize for his ammonia process, but he also used his mastery of nitrogen to pioneer the use of chlorine gas as a chemical weapon in World War I. He represents both sides of the coin.
It's a sobering reality of chemistry. When you synthesize nitrogen compounds, you are essentially packing energy into a molecule. Because that triple bond of N2 is so incredibly stable, nitrogen atoms inherently want to return to that relaxed, paired-up state.
They don't want to be in the complex molecules.
Exactly. They are constantly looking for an excuse to go back to being N2 gas.
So when we talk about modern explosives, dynamite, TNT, ammonium nitrate, rocket propellants, we are basically talking about exploiting that chemical desire.
That's it exactly. You pack nitrogen atoms into complex, highly unstable molecules. They are strained, they are uncomfortable. All it takes is a primary spark or a shock wave, and the chemical bonds just break. The nitrogen atoms violently snap back together into N2 gas.
And because breaking weak bonds to form incredibly strong bonds releases energy, we get an explosion.
A massive one. The transition from a solid or liquid explosive into a rapidly expanding N2 gas releases an enormous amount of heat and a devastating shockwave. And it happens in fractions of a millisecond.
It's the ultimate double-edged sword of modern science. The synthetic fertilizer keeping civilization from starving, and the explosives used in modern warfare, mining, and demolition both rely on the exact same chemical tension of element 7.
It's all the same basic mechanism.
But humanity's manipulation of nitrogen goes beyond explosive heat. We also use it to achieve extreme, unnatural cold.
Liquid nitrogen. This is where nitrogen's reluctance to react becomes incredibly useful in a completely different way.
We've all seen it in, science class demonstrations, but reading through the industrial applications in the sources, it's everywhere. To get liquid nitrogen, you have to cool the gas down to an astonishing minus 196 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, and at that temperature, it condenses into this clear, icy liquid that will instantly freeze anything it touches. But the mechanism of how it freezes is what makes it so valuable, especially in medicine and biology.
Because it doesn't just make things cold, it achieves something called vitrification, right?
Yes. When you put a biological sample, let's say a vial of human stem cells or a DNA sample, into a standard freezer, the freezing process is relatively slow. Water inside the cells forms sharp, jagged ice crystals.
Oh, and those just tear the cell apart.
Right, those crystals act like microscopic knives, shredding the cell membranes from the inside out. When you thaw the sample, the cells are destroyed.
But liquid nitrogen is so cold, and the temperature drop is so instantaneous that it bypasses the crystal stage entirely.
Exactly. It flash freezes the water into a smooth, glass-like state before crystals can even form. This perfectly preserves the cellular structure. It allows scientists to store biological materials, sperm, eggs, and genetic samples for decades without any degradation.
And food manufacturers use that exact same mechanism.
They do, yeah.
By flash freezing fresh produce with liquid nitrogen, they prevent ice crystals from turning the food to mush, preserving the texture and nutritional value for transport. So we've got element 7 feeding us, blowing mountains apart, and cryogenically freezing ourselves.
It's a busy element.
But let's look beyond Earth for a minute. Let's look up, because we are not the only planetary body swimming in this stuff.
Not at all. If you look at the data coming back from missions like Cassini-Huygens, Saturn's largest moon, Titan has a dense atmosphere that is completely dominated by nitrogen.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's actually thicker than Earth's atmosphere.
And astrobiologists are obsessed with Titan. From the research papers, they view it as a frozen time capsule of what an early Earth might have looked like before life evolved.
It's a crucial planetary laboratory, studying how nitrogen behaves in Titan's atmosphere. Interacting with methane and solar radiation to form complex organic smog gives researchers a window into primordial chemistry.
Ah, I see.
It helps them understand how the very first chemical precursors to life might have assembled.
Which brings up a huge philosophical question for exoplanet research. Astronomers are constantly scanning the cosmos for habitable worlds, and finding a nitrogen-rich atmosphere is a primary goal. So if we point the James Webb Space Telescope at a planet 50 light-years away and detect a heavy nitrogen atmosphere, is that a smoking gun for life, or is it something else?
I would argue it is not a smoking gun, but rather the essential blank canvas.
That's canvas.
Yeah, finding atmospheric nitrogen doesn't mean life is definitely there, because, as we established with Daniel Rutherford, nitrogen gas is highly stable and non-reactive on its own. It can exist perfectly well on a dead, sterile world.
But without the canvas, you can't have the painting.
Exactly. It tells you the potential exists. Without nitrogen, you cannot build amino acids. You cannot build DNA. So while it doesn't guarantee life, its absence almost certainly guarantees a barren rock.
So we see pristine, untouched nitrogen atmospheres out in the cosmos. But let's contrast that with Earth, where we have aggressively manipulated the cycle. Because earlier we talked about how the Haber-Bosch process let us feed billions, and that's a triumph of chemistry.
It is.
But there is a massive environmental cost to all this abundance. We hacked nature's speed limit, and the ecosystem is buckling under the weight.
It is a severe consequence of bypassing the bacteria, for sure. In a natural system, nitrogen is a tightly regulated currency. The soil only receives what the bacteria and the lightning provide, and the plants absorb nearly all of it.
But with industrial agriculture, we are pumping millions of tons of synthetic nitrogen fertilizer into the soil every single year. We're overloading the system.
And crops like corn and wheat can only absorb so much so fast. The rest of that synthetic nitrogen doesn't just politely wait in the dirt.
It washes away.
Right. The excess nitrates are highly soluble in water. When it rains or when fields are heavily irrigated, the unused fertilizer runs off into the groundwater. It flows into streams, into rivers, and eventually empties out into lakes and oceans.
And that triggers a catastrophic chain reaction called eutrophication. Let's walk through the mechanics of a dead zone, because it's a brilliant, albeit tragic, biological process.
Yeah.
The nitrogen hits the ocean, and just like it acts as a steroid for corn on land, it acts as a massive fertilizer for aquatic plants.
Specifically, phytoplankton and algae. The sudden influx of nutrients causes an explosive population growth known as an algae bloom.
Right, you see those green waters.
Yeah, the algae multiply so rapidly that they form a thick green mat across the surface of the water, blocking out sunlight for any plants living below.
But the real damage happens when the algae run out of nutrients and die. They sink to the bottom, and the decomposer bacteria step in to feast on the massive buffet of dead organic matter.
And here is the fatal mechanical flaw for the ecosystem. Those bacteria require oxygen to digest the dead algae. Because there's so much dead matter, the bacteria reproduce wildly, and their collective biological oxygen demand skyrockets.
They just use it all up,
They literally strip the dissolved oxygen right out of the surrounding water.
leaving nothing for the fish. The oxygen levels plummet to near zero, creating a hypoxic environment. The fish suffocate, the crabs die, the ecosystem collapses, and you are left with a massive coastal dead zone.
It's a sobering illustration of what happens when human industry outpaces natural cycles. We solved the problem of terrestrial starvation, but inadvertently triggered aquatic suffocation.
So we're in this precarious position. We cannot just shut off the Haber-Bosch factories or billions of people would starve.
No, we definitely can't do that.
But we can't keep dumping excess nitrates into the watershed or we'll destroy the oceans. We hacked the accelerator to feed ourselves, and now we urgently need to invent a new brake pedal. Are scientists making any headway on that?
They are, actually, and the solutions are coming from multiple different disciplines. In agriculture, soil scientists are developing advanced, slow-release, polymer-coated fertilizers.
Oh, how do those work?
They are designed to release nitrogen into the soil at the exact rate the crop's root system can absorb it, which drastically cuts down on runoff.
But there's also a bioengineering approach in the sources that sounds like straight-up science fiction. If the original problem was that only certain legume plants had symbiotic relationships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria, scientists are trying to genetically engineer crops like wheat and corn to do the same thing.
It would be a monumental breakthrough. I mean, if we can engineer staple crops to host their own bacterial lockpicks, or even insert the nitrogenase enzyme directly into the plant's own genome, They could pull their nitrogen straight from the air.
Which means we wouldn't even need the fertilizer.
Exactly. We could eliminate the need for millions of tons of synthetic chemical fertilizers entirely.
That would reshape global agriculture all over again. But the future of nitrogen isn't just about farming, is it? The energy sector is looking at element 7 as a potential savior for the climate crisis through something called green ammonia.
Yes. This is one of the most exciting areas of current research. The traditional Haber-Bosch process is incredibly carbon-intensive. To get the hydrogen needed to bond with the nitrogen, factories currently rely on steam methane reforming, which strips hydrogen from fossil fuels and releases massive amounts of CO2.
But green ammonia completely changes the hydrogen source.
It does. Instead of fossil fuels, green ammonia facilities use renewable energy like solar or wind power to run an electric current through water, a process called electrolysis.
Okay, splitting the H2O.
Right. This splits the H2O, providing clean hydrogen to feed into the reactor.
Which means we can create the ammonia without the massive carbon footprint. But the twist here is that they aren't just making it for fertilizer. Ammonia is a highly dense energy carrier.
Yes, it is.
If we can produce it cleanly, we can use it to store renewable energy, transport it across the globe in ships, and burn it in engines or fuel cells, where the only major byproduct is water and harmless nitrogen gas.
It closes the loop in a beautiful way. We take nitrogen from the air, pack it with renewable energy, use that energy, and return the nitrogen to the air exactly as we found it.
So what does this all mean for us as we navigate the modern world? When you synthesize all the history, the biology, and the future tech we've discussed today, Element 7 really emerges as the ultimate invisible giant.
It is the great connector. It quietly links the atmosphere, the soil, the oceans, and the cellular machinery of every living thing.
It's just everywhere.
It is so easy to ignore because it doesn't dazzle us with combustion like oxygen and we can't smell it or taste it. But it feeds every forest, it dictates the shape of your DNA, and it physically sustains the human population.
And it leaves you with this truly provocative thought to mull over. For the last century, humanity used our mastery of nitrogen brute forcing, that triple bond, to conquer an agricultural crisis and literally feed the world.
Right.
Now, with technologies like green ammonia on the horizon, the exact same invisible gas that currently builds the proteins in your muscles might very soon become the clean fuel that powers your car and heats your home. It makes nitrogen not just the engine of biological life, but potentially the ultimate sustainable engine of our technological future as well.
It's a profound shift, you know. We are learning to work with the nitrogen cycle rather than just overpowering it.
So tomorrow morning when you wake up, walk to the window and take that deep breath. Remember what you're actually pulling into your lungs. Nearly 4/5 of the air filling your chest isn't just empty space. It is the armored safes. It is the explosive energy. It is the silent, invisible foundation that makes everything on this planet possible. Element 7, nitrogen.